Welcome into a solo edition of Box Office Quarterbacks. My name is Jeff. Today I am talking about Godzilla Minus One, new Japanese Toho version of the Godzilla franchise that just dropped in the United States last week, and it's taking the internet by storm. Even the American box office is taking by storm. It grossed $11 million in its opening weekend. It is one of the best blockbusters of the year, in my opinion. One of the most well-made, not even big budget, but one of the most well-made blockbusters that I've seen in a really long time. And we've had some good ones this year. We've had, Oppenheimer come out, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. There have been some very solid movies, but this, on a budget of $15 million, does something that I think a lot of blockbusters can really learn from, which is craft a very emotional story around the fantastical elements of your plot. In this case, is Godzilla, a giant atomic breath-breathing monster from the depths of the ocean. Here you have the story of a World War II kamikaze pilot who dodges his duty in the final days of World War II, come in contact with Godzilla on the day he decides to go away from his duties. And the opening 5 minutes of this movie are just some of the scariest moments you'll see in any Godzilla or a monster movie in general. Like, we haven't got a brutal Godzilla, at least in the American versions, where he is just a straight up villain. First 5 minutes of this movie, he is stomping on people and eating them. It's almost like the T-Rex from Jurassic Park, the first Jurassic Park, kind of dropped into a World War II setting. I really did love what they did with Godzilla in this movie. I loved his design. He was just so very monstrous, and that's just probably the most obvious way I can describe it. But like, he's not even scaly; he's almost spiky in a way. He's just his atomic breath, and when he charges up to unleash that power, is just some of the best blockbuster moments you can see. There's a moment when he's attacking a train in Tokyo that I thought was very, very scary. Reminded me of the Lost World Jurassic Park trailer scene. We're having a sort of Godzilla renaissance right now, where you have Monarch, Legacy of Monsters, coming out on Apple TV. You have the Kong and Godzilla franchise, the Monsterverse, continuing on the big screen. This is completely separate, but I'm honestly very intrigued to see another edition of the Toho Godzilla series, opposed to whatever Kong and Godzilla are up to next. They're running in tandem in that trailer that dropped last week. A lot of funny memes that came out of that one. But like, there's nothing but good things to say here. The filmmaker behind this said that he was inspired by Star Wars, and he wants to direct a Star Wars movie. And after seeing this, not only do I want him to direct another Godzilla movie, I want him to direct any Star Wars movie that he wants to make. Because if you can do this type of movie on a $15 million budget, you imagine what you could do with like $230 million, or however much a Star Wars movie costs these days. Just talk about really finding ways to craft a budget around a movie. And it's not like Godzilla is hidden in this movie. Like, there is some Jaws effects, is what we like to call it on the show, the Jaws effect of not seeing the monster until a certain point. You see the monster 5 minutes in. They do hide him a little bit for maybe the next 30 minutes, but he's scary when he's on screen. He is very Jaws-like when he's in the water. Like, you have his giant uh, back scale sticking out of the water, makes it all the more tense. And yeah, just the characters here are great. The kamikaze pilot being the main character, and then his adopted family, I thought was just very sweet. His relationship with his adopted daughter, the love story here, it's kind of like a will they, won't they, kind of a Jim and Pam story in the middle of a Godzilla movie, is kind of how I would describe it. It's just very sweet and a little bit heartbreaking when you kind of get into the story itself, and just the mental aspects of war are very on display here as well. Being a kamikaze pilot who didn't go through with his duties, the fallout of that, the PTSD that this guy kind of experiences from his run-in with Godzilla. Everything about the human characters in here is so good. You have the crew on the boat. They're trying to destroy the mines left over by World War II. And like every character has their own unique thing. Like the captain is kind of this gruff guy. You have a younger person on the crew as well, and this guy is so eager to prove himself. Then you have the main scientist who crafts the plan, or comes up with the plan to take down Godzilla. And like the scenes in their prep to do this and to go after Godzilla really reminded me a lot of Oppenheimer in a way. Like when you see Robert Oppenheimer come up with the atomic bomb in that movie and all the equations going in here. It reminded me a lot of what went down in Los Alamos and Christopher Nolan's movie. That's just another testament to this filmmaker and this film. It is one of my favorite movies of this year. And I heard great things going in. People were talking about how it was just blowing people's minds. And I honestly think that it lived up to expectations. I think that it is a movie that you need to see on the big screen because, the bigger the better with Godzilla, honestly. The last Godzilla film, which was Godzilla versus Kong, came out in the middle of the pandemic, and we didn't see a movie like that on the big screen. And I think that kind of hurt the experience of seeing giant monsters fight. This is a very self-contained story. Like, there is a very clear sequel here, and it's set up, but it's not set up in like a post-credit scene which is kind of like the Marvel model that's been done throughout Hollywood for a while now. So honestly, if you can't tell, I love this movie, and if I were to rank it on the Box Office QB's rival fantasy scale, it's the highest of honors for me. It is going to be a Hall of Fame movie. Go see it while you can, while it's in theaters. And if you can't, like, rent it on home video as soon as possible. It is very well worth your money. Speaking of money, though, it's time to plug our sponsor, Rival Fantasy Sports. Go to joinrival.com/boxofficeqbs. There you could find a link to get $25 in free play, $10 on your first deposit, and up to a $200 deposit match. You can try Rival Fantasy for free. They got fun stuff on there. Fantasy football. The season is winding down, but you can get things, going. Maybe start up a dynasty league for next season, and start your draft that way. You got fantasy bingo. You have rival challenges where you can pit, let's think of two random players, Chris Olave versus Mike Evans, and you pick who you think is going to score the most points that week, and that's it. You win money if you guess right. So it's pretty awesome. So is Godzilla Minus One. Go see that movie. Tell us what you thought of it in the comments. But this has been another edition of Box Office Quarterbacks. My name is Jeff. We will see you guys next week with some new episodes. Have a good rest of the week.